Welcome to another inspiring podcast from C3 New Hope. For more information about our church and its locations, please visit our website at c3newhope.com.au.
This felt the Lord impressed on me, and it was actually a couple of weeks ago. A few weeks ago now, I was in Townsville, and I went to a church called Calvary up in Townsville for a night service to see a water baptism of a guy that I'd met up there. He'd asked me to come along, and the pastor up there preached this message on Simon of Cyrene. And I don't know if you've ever heard a message on Simon of Cyrene before. Have you ever? Does anyone know who Simon is? Yeah, we know he's in the Bible, right? He's mentioned in the Bible 3 times. And it just sparked my interest when I heard it. So I've kind of stolen a little bit from that pastor, but we won't tell him that, all right? He doesn't get any royalties. But and then God has just spoken to me out of this space of this story of Simon. And I'd never really thought too much about Simon of Cyrene, other than that he carried Jesus' cross. But I started to realize when I heard this message, I started to realize the significance of Simon's story and the power that is in that story. And you might go, how can you get something out of 3 verses in the Bible that all pretty much say the same thing? But today we're going to have a look at it, and I'm going to share with you around just what I felt like God spoke to me out of this passage. You know, kind of not really what the other pastor was talking about, but obviously God used that message to trigger something in me that just got me thinking about this whole idea of carrying burdens that we didn't ask for. Yeah? Turn to the person next to you and say, I didn't ask for that. You didn't ask for this message today. You thought you were getting Colossians 2. You didn't ask for it. So hopefully you don't have to suffer through it, even though we might talk a little bit about suffering. And but the reality is, every single one of us journeys through life, and we have all encountered times and moments in life and experiences where we've had to carry a burden we haven't asked for. Whether it be a sick child, a divorce, a mental health issue, an addiction, or whatever it may be, we find ourselves in life where life is good, and then all of a sudden something comes on us, and we didn't ask for it. We didn't want to carry that thing. We didn't want to go through divorce. We didn't want to have... Here's the thing, nobody that starts out on drugs starts out to get addicted, right? Nobody starting to drink alcohol starts out to become an alcoholic. Nobody does. That's not how it works. We don't start doing that stuff to become that. It just overrides our life, and we become addicted to it, and then it controls us. But the reality is, every single one of us can be carrying something today that we didn't ask for. It could be caring for an elderly parent. It could be caring for a disabled child. It could be your marriage could be broken. Relationships with your children could be broken. There's a whole lot of diverse things that you might be carrying today. You may be carrying a disease in your body, cancer or some other disease that's weighing you down. You never asked for it. You've done everything possible to not have that take place. You may have lung cancer, but you've never smoked a cigarette in your life. You're like, I never asked for this. I never asked for it, but here I am, I'm carrying it. Here I am, and it's on me. It's on me. Come with me to the book of Luke in chapter 23 and verse 26. It will not come up on the screen unless they're very quick with their fingers. I would argue that Simon's story is probably one of the most significant stories in the Bible. One of the most life-transforming stories in the Word of God that can transform our lives. We don't hear much about Simon. Like I said, we only have 3 passages about him. But yet, the role he played in the story of Jesus is powerful. What he did, despite not asking for it, was a significant moment for each and every one of us. And you might identify with him a little bit as we read this one verse. As the soldiers led him away, and this is in verse 26, it's about the crucifixion of Jesus. As the soldiers led him away, who were they leading away? Jesus, right? They were leading him away. Simon from Cyrene, who was on his way in from the country, they seized Simon of Cyrene, who was on his way in from the country, and put the cross on him and made him carry it behind Jesus. If you turn over to Matthew 27:32, it says, as they were going out, they met a man from Cyrene named Simon and forced him to carry the cross. Mark 15:21 says, a certain man from Cyrene, Simon, the father of Alexander and Rufus. So I want you to hold on to that name Rufus, because that name becomes important later, and I'll show you that later. But Rufus, he was the father of Alexander, and Rufus was passing by on the way in from the country, and they forced him to carry the cross. They forced him to carry the cross. The burden was placed on him. Imagine this, you've been working hard all your life, you've been working really hard, and you get to a point and you've saved up some money, and you've got it together, and you've booked some accommodation, and you've set out and you've gone, right, we're going to go on a family holiday. We're on a family holiday, and we're going to go from where we live in Cyrene, and actually we're going to head towards Jerusalem. We're going to do the journey across. See, here's the thing. Simon ethnically was an African person, right? Cyrene is actually modern day, it's Libya, right? So he would have been a dark-skinned man. He would have had to travel some distance to get from where he was to here. He had brought his family along, and here he is. He's walking, and there's this excitement and anticipation in his heart. I always love the sound guys, don't we? But here's this excitement. He's like, man, we're on a journey. We're going on holidays, We're heading somewhere we haven't been before, or maybe we haven't been there for a while. And he's coming, and he can see the city ahead of him, and he goes, wow, look at this. There's people everywhere. There's a real ruckus going on. This city's alive. There's so much going on. And he gets closer, and there's lots of activity, and he gets closer and closer. All of a sudden, he comes into the city, and the streets are lined with people. And he's like, there must be a parade or something going on. There must be something. Guys, come look what's going on. And then all of a sudden, he sees this man carrying a cross, beaten, bloody, a crown of thorns on his body, his back whipped and lashed and ripped apart, stumbling along. And he looks and he's like, what is going on here? What is happening here? And then the man with the cross falls to his knee, down on his knee. And he can't shoulder the cross because he's so badly beaten. And theologians say that Jesus was already starting to die, that he was beaten so badly and his body was so traumatically damaged that death was already starting to come upon him as he was carrying that cross. And he got to a point where he couldn't carry it any longer. It's too much of a burden on his shoulders. And the Roman soldiers look around for somebody. They look around and go, you know what? We need somebody else to carry this cross. We need somebody else to get this cross up the hill. We need somebody else to do the heavy lifting so that this man can be crucified. See, the thing is that they weren't doing Jesus a favor by getting Simon to carry the cross. They weren't going, oh, poor Jesus, he can't carry the cross that he's going to die on. Why don't we get somebody to help him? That was not how it worked. Simon did not have a say in having to carry the cross. It was Simon, carry the cross or you will die. You carry the cross and you will not complain. You will do what you're told. You have no choice. You must carry this cross. You can't back out. Oh, but I'm on holiday. Sorry, it doesn't matter if you're on holiday. It's all about my family's here. It doesn't matter that your family's here. My boys, Alexander and Rufus, are here. I can't do that. This is too much for them. Simon, if you don't carry the cross, we're going to beat you. We possibly may kill you if you don't do what you're told to do. We are not asking, we are telling you. you will carry this cross. And so Simon is drawn out of the crowd. Why it was Simon, we don't know. Maybe he was the darkest skinned person, so he stood out in the crowd. I don't know. He was amongst a crowd of dark-skinned people, I guess. But for some reason, he stood out to the Roman soldiers, and they drew him out and said, you are going to carry this. And I don't know about you, but I know for me that I've been in positions in my life where all of a sudden, for whatever reason, and I don't know why, I've had to carry a burden that I didn't want, that I didn't ask for, and I sure as hell don't want to keep carrying this thing forever in my life. I didn't ask to have depression. I didn't ask to have anxiety. I didn't ask to carry this burden. And I'm doing everything that I can to get this cross off my back, but yet here I am carrying this cross. I didn't ask for my child to have a disability, but here I am. Simon didn't ask to carry Jesus' cross. He wasn't coming there to do that. That wasn't on his agenda. The thing you're struggling with wasn't on your agenda. People go, oh, well, maybe that was self-inflicted, because you got an addiction. Yeah, maybe it was, but you didn't start it to get addicted. But here you are struggling with this burden, trying to get free, trying to shoulder the weight of something, a mistake in your past. Wondering, how much longer, Lord, do I have to shoulder this burden? How much longer do I have to carry this thing? I didn't start out in life intending to have to bear this burden, but yet here I am. And often what we do is we get preached the gospel and we get told that God is going to deliver you from everything, that God is going to do all things. You're going to get healed, you're going to get set free, you're going to get all this great stuff happening in your world, and all that you're suffering with is going to go away, and life's going to be good, and it's going to be great, and you're going to go on holidays, and it's going to be like angels. Every day you wake up. But who knows, there's a weight in suffering, of suffering. That the Bible actually has a theology of suffering. That suffering is actually part of our experience as human beings in this world. That there are things in our life that we will carry for whatever reason, and we don't always understand why we haven't been set free, or why we can't get a healing, or why we can't see our child changed, or why we can't see our marriage be transformed, or why. But we're walking through life with these burdens. And we're wondering, God, why have you not changed this? Why have you not set me free? Why have you not fixed this problem? I know I've been there. God, why has it been over 30 years of suffering with mental health moments and problems in my world? Why did my dad leave when I was 5, Lord? Why was I left fatherless? Why? You know what I've discovered? Sometimes you don't get the answer. And God says, trust me. But Lord, I don't want this. I know. But you can shoulder it. You can carry it. But I don't want to carry it. He knows. But he knows that what's in you, what he's put in you, you won't be overrun by it. You won't be destroyed by it. It's actually there. You're going to grow from it. You're going to become stronger than it. All of a sudden, that burden, that pain, that mess in your life is going to become the message of your life. It's going to be the story you tell to the person that you come along who suffers from addiction, from the person you come along who has a mental health issue, from the person that you come along to and their marriage is broken down, and you are like, hey man, you'll be able to speak to them in a way with empathy and understanding in a way that others don't have in their world. Why? Because you had to go through a situation. You know, David said, although I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. David was a free man in a dark valley. He feared no evil. Yes, he was in a dark valley. Did he ask for it? No, he didn't. Did he do something to deserve it? No, he didn't. But here he was in a dark valley. Elijah, who am I thinking of? Ezekiel. That's who I'm thinking of. He was in a valley of dry bones. He got led there by the Spirit. It looked terrible. I don't know if you've been like me, been in a valley of dead people. It's amazing. No, it's not. Ezekiel gets led into this valley of dry bones, dead people all over. God says to him, Ezekiel, can these bones come to life? Well, only you know, Lord. And then God goes to show him his power of how he can transform something dark into something light. Something dead into something alive, something problematic into something that's significant. And you might go, but man, I've been suffering through this situation, this valley for so long, Dave. Can I tell you, you're going to be okay? How can you say that? Because you've got Christ. Jesus is with you. It's way more important to have Jesus with you than you can comprehend. See, circumstances of life will come and they will go. Problems in life will come and they will go. Some will stick around longer than others. Some will lead to situations that are way out of our control and we can't change them. But the one thing we can find security in, the one thing we can hang on to, is that Jesus is right there with us. Simon was made pick up this cross. He was made carry this burden. And it says that they made him carry the cross behind Jesus. What's that about? Jesus was walking to where they were going to crucify him, and Simon was behind him with a cross on his back, looking at Jesus. His eyes were fixed on Jesus, and he was moving in a direction he didn't ask for. He was carrying a burden he didn't want to carry, but yet he had his eyes fixed on Jesus. Although I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil because you're with me. He was literally walking in the footsteps of Jesus. For a time in his life, he got to experience the burden, or just some of the burden, that Jesus was experiencing. He got to carry this thing. He didn't ask for it. He didn't want it. Even Jesus didn't really want to go through it. Lord, if you can take this cup from me, but your will be done. It wasn't like Jesus was excited about the cross. He knew what the outcome would be, and that's why he went through with it. And God, we are so thankful that he did. But Simon carries this cross, and the weight of suffering is upon him. Over 90 verses in the Bible talk of suffering. And there's probably a whole lot more that are around that whole topic. 90 verses. In Job, it says, in Job 36:15, it says, but those who suffer, he delivers in their suffering and speaks to them in their affliction. I remember people saying, I've talked to lots of people about this who have gone through mental health issues, and they get told, you just need to read your Bible more and pray. You just need to get more time with God. And I often laugh because I know when I went through it, I was like, man, I was spending so much time with God. I don't know what it is that people think when we go through suffering, somehow we disconnect from God. No, I don't know about you, but for me, when I go through something, I push into Him, right? And so I'm praying and I'm reading my word and I'm not hearing a thing. For whatever reason, for me, it was just, I was suffering and I couldn't hear the voice of God. I couldn't feel His presence. I was carrying this burden. And all I could do was just keep my eyes fixed on what I knew. I knew Jesus. I knew He was the answer. I knew He was the way, the truth, and the life. The Bible told me these things. So even when I couldn't feel it, even when I couldn't sense it, even when I didn't feel like it, I could rely on the fact that I had truth in my life. And no matter what I was walking through, no matter what burden I was carrying, and the same goes for you, no matter what it is or where you're at today, you might be like me, that when people go, oh, Jesus spoke to me, I used to be like, oh, I wish He'd speak to me. And you come across that person and Jesus talks to him every other minute of the day. And I couldn't even get a boo out of him. All I get is, trust my word. Trust me, Dave. Trust me. Most of that was me saying, trust Him, Dave. Trust Him. You can trust Him. You're going to get through this. You're going to come out the other side. You need to know this. You're going to get through it. You're going to come out the other side. You can trust Him. You can trust Him. It hasn't changed. That's okay. It's not about the circumstance changing. It's about you fixing your eyes on Him and allowing Him to lead you in whatever direction He wants you to go. And He will lead you. Trust me, He will lead you. And even if you have to suffer, He will lead you and He will guide you and He will build your life and He will make you a significant person. Because He has a plan for you. And they're plans to prosper you and not harm you. And just because something in life is coming against you doesn't mean that it has to take you out. We've just got to get real and say, well, if Jesus suffered and Simon suffered and the apostles suffered and the disciples suffered, and all through the Bible we see suffering, and we don't see God coming and just changing everything for everyone all the time. Does that mean God can't? Of course it doesn't. God can do all things. By faith, God can move mountains. By faith, we can speak to this mountain and say, be moved from there to there, and it'll be done for you. That nothing's impossible for him who believes, that our God can do all things. He can do immeasurably more. Well, why doesn't it happen? I don't know. Why? Because I'm a mere human. Right? I don't have the mind of God. All I can do is trust that if I've got this puzzle called life and God has given me some pieces, He has the puzzle. Who does puzzles? Yeah? On holidays especially, right? Puzzles, I love them. They're great until I get frustrated with them and then they're back in pieces again. But you know, the thing I found with puzzles is you have to put it together one piece at a time. Right? You can't just somehow throw it up in the air and it lands and ta-da! And I don't know about you, but I have to have the puzzle box, the lid. Right? I need the picture. I've got to be able to see what the end result's going to be. And the problem is I take that same attitude and that same thing into my life with Christ. And I say, God, I want to be able to see the outcome before it happens. I want to be able to see the picture that you've got me on in this journey. I want to be able to see the ending. And God goes, no. And I go, yes. And He goes, really, you want to do this? And I go, no. And He goes, here's a piece. And what I want you to do is I want you to take that piece and I want you to connect it to another piece that I've already given you. And all of us have got pieces of the puzzle that are on our table of life that we've been piecing together. And some of us, our pictures, we kind of can make out a little bit of what it's going to be. For others, man, you've got the jelly bean picture and you have no clue whatsoever is going on. And that's okay. Why? Because the one thing you need to know is that if we're holding the puzzle lid, it's all going to go pear-shaped. But if He's holding the puzzle lid, He's going to give you the right piece at the right time with the right connection so that your life can be what He's created it to be. The problem is we get impatient. Okay? We get impatient. I love this story about Simon. I'm like, this one verse in the Bible, there's hardly anything in here about him, but his story is so powerful. His story is so significant because his story, it's our story, right? We relate with this because we know what it's like to carry burdens that we didn't ask for. We know what it's like to live in frustration when we don't get the answer to the prayer that we've been praying over and over and over and over and over again. And some of us have been praying for years. Some of us have got good and then we've stumbled again. We've got good and we've fallen back again, and we've got good and we keep beating ourselves up. Stop it. Nothing is wasted. Nothing you're going through in your life will be wasted by God. Nothing I've journeyed through in my life is going to be wasted by God. Everything is used. Every single challenge is used to develop something good in your world. Even when we can't see it, even we can't tell, something good will come out of dark times. Why? Because if you have Christ, then you have all that you need. Nothing is wasted. In Romans 8:28 it says, and we know that in all things those who love Him and who have been I skipped the whole sentence. We know that in all things God works for the good of those who love Him and who have been called according to His purpose. Do you love Him? You've been called. So what's going to happen? Something good is going to come out of something bad. It may not be what you want, but it will definitely be what you need. Often what we do is we say, God, I want it to happen this way. And you're going to do it like this and like this and like this. And then when you get there, you're going to do that and you're going to do that. And you're going to make this all perfect for me. And God goes, no. I've got a bigger picture than the tree in the corner of your puzzle. There's actually a bigger picture that's going to happen for your life. And if I was to do that here, I would be robbing you from over here of an experience that's going to transform your life. But to get there, you have to go through this. And out of this is going to come great purpose. Out of this is going to come great strength. You ever wonder why you're still here? Because God has given you what you need to be here. You're not here by mistake. You're not here by chance. You're here because God has made it so. You know, I said Rufus was important. I want to show you that nothing is wasted. Nothing is wasted. Because Simon's carrying this cross. His kids are seeing it. His family's seeing him do that. They're seeing him be treated poorly and mistreated, and he's carrying a burden he didn't ask for, and he had to help this guy go up a hill to get crucified and murdered on a hill, and all unfair, all not what they were intending. I reckon they were probably intending to go down to, like movie world. I don't know what that would look like in those days, but they were obviously not turning up to do this. They'd travelled quite a distance, and his children are watching and thinking, man, with concern, possibly anxiety in their heart, we may never see Dad again. This could be it. We've heard about these Roman soldiers. We've heard about how harsh they are on people, how damaging they can be, and how brutal they are. Maybe this is the end. Maybe we're watching Dad walk and this is the last time we see him. And we see Rufus and Alexander, they're watching this situation. And if you come with me to Romans 16:13. Paul's writing the book of Romans, he's addressing the Roman church. And he says these words. He says, greet Rufus, chosen in the Lord, and his mother, who has been a mother to me. I love that right there, the significance of that scripture. That here's Rufus that is getting endorsed by Paul. Nothing is wasted. Nothing is wasted. This situation Simon's going through, what he's carrying and didn't ask for, the whole mess what was going on. Here's little Rufus watching his dad carry this cross and not complain. Carry this cross and do all that he can to get the cross to wherever it has to be. Carrying this cross, looking and following Jesus, having his eyes fixed on Jesus. And Rufus is watching and he's seeing his dad do this great thing that is unfair, but yet his dad didn't give up. His dad didn't lay down. His dad didn't try and run away. His dad burdened the burden that he didn't ask for. And he carried that cross. And Rufus is watching. And then all this time passes. And we see Paul say, greet Rufus. The same Rufus that was here is found in the church right here as someone significant enough that the Apostle Paul knew his name. Someone that's significant enough in the kingdom that the Apostle Paul endorsed him and said, I want you to greet him for me. Paul knew him and his mother. I love that out of great adversity came amazing breakthrough in Rufus's life. And you might say, well, you know what I'm going through, man, I don't want my kids to have to suffer. My kids, Dave, my kids have seen me do some terrible things. My kids have heard me say some terrible things. My kids have seen me carry that burden really poorly, and I wasn't great in that moment, and I don't want that burden to ruin my children. Can I tell you that that's not what's going to happen in your world? Your kids are not going to be ruined because of a burden that you've had to carry. Actually, what they can do and what can come out of that is they can see the goodness and the faithfulness and the faith and the trust in God on your life as you keep carrying it. Sometimes, yes, you carry it a bit poorly, but yet you still get up and carry that thing and say, I keep my eyes fixed on Jesus. And the one thing our kids need is to know how to keep their eyes fixed on Jesus in the dark times of life. When I was going through depression, my motivating drive was I'm going to get through this so that my kids know that all things are possible when you have Jesus. And to be able to stand here today with two of my kids sitting in a room, hear me say that, and know what I went through and how close I came to not being in ministry or in church or any of that. But just that dogmatic, God, I'm going to keep walking. I'm going to keep pursuing you. I'm going to keep going. If I have to carry this cross to the day I die, I will keep carrying it. Why? Because, Lord, I am not fixated on my cross. I'm fixated on you. You're the answer. And I can shoulder a burden if I have to. I don't want to. I didn't ask for it. It definitely isn't something I desired. But if I have to carry it, Lord, I'm going to carry it with my eyes fixed on you. Could I have the musicians come? David said in the Psalms, he says, I will lift up my eyes and look to the mountains, for where does my help come from? You know where he said that verse from? The valley. You can't look up on mountaintops if you're on the top of the mountain, right? You can only see a mountain, look up a mountain to the top of the mountain if you're in the valley. David's in a valley. He says, I will lift up my eyes and look to the mountains. You know what our biggest problem sometimes is? Our eyes are fixed on the burden. Our eyes are fixed on the struggle. When I was learning to drive, I thought I was a good driver, like every other L-plater in the room right now. You're not, okay? Just so you know. I remember I was driving, and as I was driving the car, I was kind of moving all over the road, like in the lane, right? And the instructor's like, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm driving." "You should know this. You're a driving instructor. You've been here before." And they said, No. Can you see what you're doing?" I said, "What? I'm driving straight." He goes, "You're not driving straight." I said, "Yeah." And I go, No, look up. And so I could see, like as I was driving, I was sort of just a little bit all over the road. She goes, "Where are you looking?" I said, "I'm looking down the bonnet at the road." She says, No. You don't. When you drive, you don't look down the bonnet to the road. She goes, "You need to lift up your eyes. And you need to look 2 or 3 cars ahead." And as I lifted up my eyes and I looked out, I went from to this, straight. And the reason it happened is because I shifted my perspective. I shifted my vision. I shifted my vision off what was right in front of me to what was way ahead of me. And God is wanting you to know today, what you're going through is real. It's significant for you. I do not doubt that. I'm not here to tell you today that your problem is irrelevant. Whatever it may be, for you, it's real, and I get it. But if you're looking at that thing and you're trying to figure it out, and you're trying to manipulate it, and you're trying to bring change to it, and you're trying to make it happen, and everything that you're doing is in your own strength and ability, then you're going to be trying for a long, long time. Because you might be successful in trying to fix part of it, and then this part over here will fall apart. Oh, well, I sort of got my marriage back together, but then all of a sudden, my kids have gone wayward. While I was fixated on here, something went wrong over here. God is saying, lift up your eyes. Lift up your eyes. Look to the mountains. Where does your help come from? You get to choose where the help comes from. You can look to the world. You can look to your own abilities. You can look to whatever it may be that you could look to. None of that is going to bring the answer that can only come from looking to Him. Why don't we stand? Let's stand today. We're going to shut down this service really soon. If you're carrying a burden right now, you're actually in the best place you can be to have God come along and help shoulder that thing, to give you strength, to give you ability, to help you. For some of us, you may experience some freedom. Fantastic. I'm praying that every single one of us here today experiences the freedom from that burden that you're carrying. For others, that burden's not going to go away yet. For it to go away, it would have something unimaginable would have to happen, which we don't want. And we know we've just got to go on carrying this thing. If it's a child, we have to keep moving forward, keep going forward. Don't stop. But one thing David didn't do was stop in the valley. Although I walk through the valley, he said. He didn't pitch a tent there. He didn't live there and go, woe is me, my life is terrible, I'm a terrible person and everything's crap. Can you say crap in church? I have to check. You can say it twice, apparently. Come on. God wants you to know this thing's not going to take you out. Why? Because you have Jesus. If you didn't have Jesus, it could be a different story. But if you have Jesus, there's only one story, and that is victory. That is success. That is overcoming. That is the ability to carry and shoulder things and not fall apart and not become destroyed. Why? Because when we have Christ, we have everything we need to overcome.
We hope you've been encouraged by this message. For more information about C3 New Hope and its locations, please visit our website at c3newhope.com.au.